do you prefer, Jameson or Jamie?
I was Jamie up until I was Jamie up until I was in kindergarten,
Hmm.
and everyone made fun of me as Jamie because Jamie Summers was out, so $6 Million Woman. So I went to Jameson, but then when I was in Lost Boys, everyone called me Jamie because I at the time went by Jamie Jameson, which was sort of like slick, kind of sort of it's a cheesy stage name. So Jameson, you're welcome to call me Jamie, but most people call me Jameson.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm, again, as we all are, a fan of the Lost Boys.
Thank you.
Because every time I see this movie, there's so much more I get out of it. I mean, as far as plot and things in the background, and it's
Sure.
just loaded with what we like to call, cookies.
Yeah, cookies, and you call them cookies, or like what do they call them? Also, Easter eggs or something
Easter
like
eggs.
that. But I love to hear people say that, and it took about 20 years for me to be able to watch the movie as watching the movie and not looking at every detail of my performance and being like, you missed that moment, or being like celebrating that I hit the moment. But so I finally was able to watch the movie about maybe 10, 15 years ago and see it, and I was like, this is a heck of a movie. It addresses this teenage thing, this teenage thing that we were vampires, where you sleep all day, and you party all night and stuff, and a collection of really awesome artists, a lot of really good actors at the time. Like Joel Schumacher managed to pick a bunch of really good actors, even for these roles that they didn't really have that many lines. They just had so much presence, So I'm glad to hear you say that. I agree. Lost Boys is a really cool movie. I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Even down to the extras that are in the background. And just it was just an amazing group of people putting this movie together.
Totally. Are you talking about some of the extras, like our parents, the Frog Brothers' parents, in the extra? That was a bit of genius of Schumacher. Joel, I just heard this story too because I was up in Santa Cruz talking to Joe Ferrara, the comic book store owner, the real comic book store owner.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that what Joel did is he was literally like you, like on the street. There were people who were like, you two, come, you're going to be the parents. You're going to be the comic book store owners. So.
Are you happy that you're identified with the character Alan Frog?
I am. I feel, I've been really fortunate in my life in a lot of ways. I didn't do that many movies as a teenager. I got into it a little bit later than other kids. And so I got into some really good projects, and I feel really grateful to be part of Lost Boys. And now, what's kind of happened for me now is as I grew up and acting was only kind of doing it part way for me, and I became a writer and I became a dad, and all those things that you do in life, that don't necessarily relate to your first career. And I now am kind of I've reassessed things in the last few years. Maybe it's the pandemic made us all reassess things, and I've come back to acting full force again, and doing that, it really helps to be identified as Alan Frog and to be connected with this movie. It's helping me a lot, and it's helping me to not just be starting from square one.
When you travel and go to conventions, are you just bowled over by how many people really follow this movie and it's become part of their life?
Yes, I'm blown away every time I go out on the road and I see people who've been fans of this movie from the moment they saw it. They saw it, and some people saw it in the movie theater in 1987, and they've been fans of the movie ever since. Some people watch it every day for years, and then they introduce it to their kids, and then their kids introduce it to their kids. I've seen 3 generations of Lost Boys fans in front of me. It's a beautiful thing, and we didn't get to see that until we started doing conventions. We got fan mail and stuff, and that was cool. It blew my mind to get fan mail. Of course, you're an actor and you just do something, and then all of a sudden you get fan mail. And that was back in the 80s when there wasn't such thing as the internet, But now that there's this way to connect with fans and this way to get out there and see people who are so touched by this movie, and people who I talked to a mom whose daughters I met them. They're very high functioning. They're there, but they, there's certain things about that condition that they needed. They had this. Lost Boys was a comfort movie for them, and it's just it's just amazing to me. I love that. It's incredible.
Well, just the individual performances are terrific. But you've been blessed in working with some great people. Kurt Russell, one of my dear friends.
Is that right? Is he a good friend? That's good.
In Bone Tomahawk, that was a great role.
Yeah, thank you. I loved that movie, and that was as I was kind of beginning to come back a little bit. Craig Zoller, Craig Zoller, the writer-director of it. We were friends back in New York in the 90s, and we did dumb little projects together, and also ended up doing some cool couple of movies together that were cool. Never saw the light of day that much, but and he offered me this role, not out of the blue, because I knew he liked my work and everything, and out of the blue in the sense that he was selling scripts and he wasn't directing one yet until this one. And so to be a part of it was amazing. And I worked on that, I'm in that saloon scene in Bone Tomahawk, which is so cool, being like, my wife is Sean Young, in it, which was amazing, as my teenage, preteen self was going wild, so and it just being there, and then being able to, I even lunched with Kurt Russell for a second. I mean, it was like, I think everyone was afraid to sit at the same table with him. They wanted to give him his space, but I was like, I want to hang out with Kurt Russell.
Good for you. Yeah, Kurt's totally different from what people think. I mean, he loves people.
Yeah, super great guy. I mean, really sweet guy. Yeah. And great actor. Oh my God. When the movie came out, of course, I mean, I could see on the set the stuff that was going on, and I knew Craig and his work, but watching the movie, I was just blown away. It was like, I'm not a huge horror fan myself. I mean, I love horror when it's done well, but I get too scared sometimes, and this was a scary one, but it was great.
You've produced a few things as well. Do you like that hat?
I don't love to produce. I mean, producing's a means to an end for me. Some people love that feeling and that, having all the pieces together. I prefer not to. I'd love to just have my own little piece. I think if I had my choice, I would just be an actor or a writer. But producing and directing are things that I have kind of learned more about, because I'm involved in projects, and and you see people do it, and you start to participate a little bit, and you're like, okay, this project means enough to me that I want to get behind it and really like roll up my sleeves and get into it. So when I produce, it's often my own stuff, and little by little, I'm hoping my own stuff kind of grows, my own voice is growing, so I love to act and I love to write, and the other things are, they're cool too.
This place that I call. I don't want to explain it to her.
Producing, directing, anything you do behind the camera helps inform what you do in front of the camera.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, one of the great things about being able to watch Joel Schumacher, like when I'm 16 years old, getting to sit there and watch Joel Schumacher work with Michael Chapman, these two greats, and being able to watch that and then see what they're doing, and then get behind the camera and see what it looks like behind the camera, see what kind of choices they're making. When I'm making acting choices, what kind of choices are they making? And yeah, absolutely. I think getting that full picture is a really big part of it.
And knowing what the editor is going to see and work with as well.
Yeah, and understanding that what the editor wants when he or she gets into the editing bay, and do they want, they want choices, do they want, what I mean? Do they want options? A lot of people want options. So, nailing it one way, but not feeling like trying to recreate it that way, but giving, understanding what the full process is,
I wanted to say this, and I'm saving it for now. When I saw Lost Boys when it opened, it was a great film, and I was blown away by it. But as I've watched it over the years, it has become funnier and funnier to me too. There is this incredible sense of humor about this film that I didn't pick up when I was young.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I didn't really pick up on it when we were doing it until a certain point, and I think that was part of, I think, why you can have a movie that is not purely a comedy, but then you see the comedy come out is because, for me, we were just tough. Schumacher he was like, you guys are tough. He wanted us to like scream into a pillow and like just watch Charles Bronson and just be like that. We weren't playing it for comedy, and it wasn't until maybe at some point in Santa Cruz when I was talking to Brooke McCarter, and he was like, "Oh yeah, the Frog Brothers, that's great, a little bit of comic relief," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." Sure, of course.
It was like trying to convince Denise Richards that Starship Troopers was a comedy, and she just wouldn't believe it. So
right, it's great. Yeah, I mean,
but over the years, it's only gotten better, and again, it's just that great Halloween kind of movie that people experience, and especially when I love being around people that experience for the first time.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, when I went to college, my freshman year, I was in a dorm room when everyone was watching Lost Boys going nuts, and then finally realized that I was a Frog Brother, and that was amazing. It was really cool. And yeah, the thing also about the comedy is that what was I gonna say about that? I mean, you kind of nailed it with like, I just think that like, as I watch it and you see those little bits of comedy come out, and you look at the parents in the comic book store and you say, yeah, I mean, this isn't just like, this is funny that these, you know what I mean? Like, but it's funny in a way that's mixed in with that vampire fear and stuff. So
yeah, I've often said that Lost Boys is American Graffiti as a horror film.
Yeah, those things were really dealing with the metaphor of family and the metaphor of being a teenager, and giving birth to. I think he sort of gave birth to Buffy, right? I mean, certainly into the series, I think heavily influenced by Lost Boys, and where we're saying we're not just going to tell a story about being a teenager. We're going to tell a story about teenagers who become vampires, because this is a way of exploring the fact that, yeah, these kids, like you said, yeah, these kids are out there without any parent supervision. I mean, isn't that the dream of a teenager, to be like free? I mean, I think that's part of the joy of it, right? Because that's what we want as teenagers. We want to be free, right? Like you say, we want to be free. Hey, look at this. Come be free. Come enjoy being, an adult. You're an adult. You don't need your parents. And then all of a sudden you get into some trouble, and you're
boy, do you need them at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a few projects coming?
Yeah. So actually, I'm doing a bunch of different things. One great surprise right now is that this movie that we worked on a couple years ago, that we all really loved, Waking Nightmare. Mm-hmm. We just loved the script, and it was just this amazing opportunity to work with Diane Franklin. It was a dream to work with Diane Franklin. I loved her since the 80s, and we never worked together. And so all of a sudden we're in this movie, and she's playing my wife, and Shelley Regner is, I think, just amazing. She wasn't someone that I knew from the 80s. Obviously, she's much younger than both of us, but being this family, talk about a family movie, Waking Nightmare it's like if you take the struggles of being a kid and add a little bit of gore and horror to it, and you're still dealing with those struggles. You're still dealing with being a kid, and as parents, we're still dealing with this kid who's having some troubles.
Yeah. I just spoke to Diane, and
yeah.
I told her immediately that up until that moment, I thought she was French.
Yeah, she did it. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing about Diane. She's so committed. Yeah, that's what we thought. I thought she was. I mean, except some other
in Amityville and all those other things she's done.
Yeah, exactly.
But my gosh, and what a talent!
Incredible talent, and to see her up close, to work with her was amazing, because it's one thing to look at an actress and be like, okay, she's great in the role she's done, and that means a lot, but to work closely with someone who has that kind of talent, and bouncing off each other. It's so exciting and so fun, and and also, was probably a crush of mine, early crush of mine, just because right in Better Off Dead, I mean, that's what she was set up to be, is like this our ideal, our ideal crush. And so to get a chance to work with her and have that, we had some really nice energy together in the movie, and it was just really lovely, and I love the movie. This whole time I was like, you got to finish this movie. This is what happens sometimes with indie movies, is that you put so much into production, and there's you think, like, you plan it out and think, okay, we have this and this and this, and then it takes over. Production takes over, and then it takes a little while to finish it, and that's kind of what happened here. And so we were all waiting, and we were like, Brian, Steven, where's the movie? Because we all really loved it, and now to see it, it's really special for me.
Since you've been back.
I'm fine. I don't know why everybody keeps checking up on me.
Your mom's inside. I guess she got an appointment at the clinic.
Great. Can't wait to be a certified comatose patient. Ever since the accident, I haven't really spoken to anybody.
Something as traumatic as that can really take a toll on a person. But about the sleepwalk, anything out of the ordinary happening?
The occasional nightmare.
The nightmares will eventually stop.
It's a terrifying film in a lot of ways. I mean, socially terrifying. It's Diane plays a woman that I don't think I'd ever want to meet.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a brilliantly written and shot film.
I agree, and I have to, hats off to Brian Farmer and Stephen Craig. I've known Brian for a little bit. I've worked on a couple of things of his as he's been working up his career, and I just could tell from the beginning, really talented guy. And I talked to him about this script when he wrote it, and I was like, you're working on it for a long time. And he was like, no, I just visualized it. I knocked it out. I knew what I wanted. It was like, it was really exciting. He's really, I think, an up and coming talent in the horror, to someone like a Richard Donner, The Omen is one of my favorite horror movies. There's a lot of movies like that where you've got just a really good movie with really good acting and, really good, like you said, the shots, the writing. And, I think it's like that. I think he's got a shot to be like a Richard Donner in that way.
Yeah, I felt like that. I felt that there's a lot of use of shadow, a lot of use of the shots even linger, so you think you see something in the back, and it's just a beautifully shot film. Even though there wasn't a ton of money behind it, of course, that's where we get our geniuses from. When we don't have the money, we have to think of things.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's, talking about Bone Tomahawk too, to go back that for a second, Craig Zoller, one of the reasons, when I worked on the indie movies with him in the 90s, that's how he did it, is that all these little tricks that you do because you don't have the money, and it ends up making, in a lot of cases, so much better or so much richer. I mean, and one of the nice things too about, again, another family movie, this movie, A Waking Nightmare. And, it's like you say about Diane, she plays this woman that you wouldn't necessarily want to know. And it's like, but guess what? She's my wife in it.
Yeah.
She's my wife in it, and she's crazy. And how do I balance that? I mean, that's what's nice about being the actor in it, is that I don't have to worry about all those other things. All I have to worry about is that this is my wife and this is my daughter, and they're going through some things, and I have to decide if I am going to be there for them. I mean, I don't want to give away a lot of the movie, but
please, because it's such a great plot, such a simply intricate is how I want to put that, because the more you dig, the more you get out of this movie. And again, to be part of that with that cast is lovely.
Yeah, I'm so glad you say that. I totally agree. And look how lucky I am. Lost Boys, Bone Tomahawk, Waking Nightmare. I think I have high hopes for it. Certainly because I think that when people see it, they're gonna really like it. And I think it's a really good stake in the ground. Like, we're here, these filmmakers are here in the horror genre, and I would love to see a sequel. I'd love to see people really dig it and get into a sequel, because I'd love to see what this family's up to.
What up to next?
Can't imagine.
Will you ever go onto the live stage? Would you perform live in a play?
I love live theater. I studied live theater. I mean, it's part of, in a way, why my career didn't take off as much after Lost Boys, is that I went to New York and kind of devoted myself to live theater for about 15 years in New York and around the country. It's a really amazing thing, live theater. And I would do it again. It's a little tricky to do. It takes a lot of time away from, when you're working on projects and trying to put together a living. I got a couple kids, and it's like to take a little time and to take 2 months, 3 months and do a show. It's a long time, but I would do it. I would do it at the drop of a hat with a big project.
I would love to see you do something on stage as well.
Yeah, it's a whole different process. And there was a time when that live theater was the new thing. Having studied theater, it's like you think back to times when live theater was that amazing thing that people were going nuts for, and that was what film was. And now we have film, and that delay can be both good and bad. That immediate gratification and that immediate connection with the audience is just so amazing and so powerful.
Jameson, it is such a pleasure to get to know you and meet you, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. It's great to talk to you. I'd love to hear. I'm so happy that you love the movie.
I do, and in fact, I'm just finishing up with Diane's elongated interview that we did.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll see this up online in a day or two.
That sounds good.
All right,
awesome.
Jameson. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Good to meet you.